fall asleep fast and have beautiful fairy tale like dreams. Sleep well and rest well. So the fairy tale is called Rosebud or Sleeping Beauty by the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen who had no children. And this they lamented very much. But one day, as the queen was walking by the side of the river, a little fish lifted its head out of the water and said, "Your wish shall be fulfilled, and you shall soon have a daughter." What the little fish had foretold soon came to pass, and the queen had a little girl that was so very beautiful that the king could not cease looking on her for joy, and determined to hold a great feast. So he invited not only his relations, friends and neighbors, but also all the fairies that they might be kind and good to his little daughter. Now there were 14 fairies in his kingdom, and he had only 12 golden dishes for them to eat out of, so that he was obliged to leave one at the fairies without an invitation. The rest came in after the party was over. They gave all their best gifts to the little princess. One gave her virtue, another beauty, another riches, and so on till she had all that was excellent in the world. When 11 had done blessing her, the 13th, who had not been invited and was very angry on that account, came in and determined to take her revenge. So she cried out, horses slept in the stables, and the dogs in the court. The pigeons on the housetop and the flies on the walls. Even the fire on the hearth left off blazing, and went to sleep, and the meat that was roasting stood still, and the cook who was at the moment pulling the kitchen boy by the hair to give him a box on the ear for something he had done amiss, let him go and both fell asleep, and so everything stood still and slept soundly. A large hedge of thorns soon grew round the palace, and every year it became high and thick, till at last the whole palace was surrounded in heat, so that not even the roofs or the chimneys could be seen. But there went a report through all the land the beautiful sleeping rosebud, for so was the king's daughter called, so that from time to time several kings' sons came and tried to break through the thicket into the palace. This they could never do, that the thorns and bushes laid hold of them, as if it were with hands, and there they stuck fast and died miserably. After many, many years there came a king's son into that land, and an old man told him the story of the thicket of thorns, and how beautiful palace stood behind it. horses got up and shook themselves, and the dogs jumped about and barked. The pigeons took their heads from under their wings and looked about, and flew into the fields. The flies on the walls buzzed away. The fire in the kitchen blazed up and cooked the dinner, and the roast meat turned round again. The cook gave the boy the box on his ear so that he cried out, and the maid went on plucking the food. And then was the wedding at the prince, and Rosebud celebrated, and they lived happily together all their lives long. So my sleeping beauty, I wish you sweet dreams. I wish you wake up in the morning and the sun will be shining just for you, and your smile will be shining for the whole world. I wish you